Hello, hope you're all well. Today I'm going to service a very unusual Lemania movement. You might be mostly familiar with Lemania from their chronograph movement manufacturer. They made the 321 for Amiga, among other great calibers. But this one is a Lemania caliber 3060, which is their freehand watch movement. Very nice movements indeed. And this one's quite special because it is a 24-hour dial variant, so you have very fine teeth on this hour wheel. Very difficult variation to get a hold of. They did not make many of them, but here's one of them. So I'm going to show a couple of pictures of this from when I got it. The case was really beaten up and in not good condition. That's been professionally polished. I have still to fit the pin and tube in there, but very cool beveling on the case here. So the lines are a little bit softer than what they would have been new, but when you look at how this case looked before, it's a miracle it's come up so nicely as it has. Very nice and shiny. Usually I wouldn't have a case polished, but when you look at the before pictures, you couldn't see the bevels at all because of all the scratches. And this one was sold to, was sold through as a Jardur watch. And this dial has, you can see it has a little bit of shine to it, and that is the varnish I put onto the dial to keep the print in place and the old luminous compound. This dial had been suffering from varnish flaking. That means all the varnish was flaking off, and you can see here in the corner that it was starting to affect the print as well. But with this new layer of varnish, I've stabilized the surface of the dial, and hopefully it will last another 70 years or 60 years, as this watch is probably, I would reckon, around 1958 to 60 or something like that, or maybe earlier. Between 1950 and 60, I would guess. So Jardur decided they didn't want to have the Wakmann logo on here because it isn't a Wakmann, but you do have an identical watch like this, which is a Wakmann, so, or marketed as a Wakmann. So a good friend of mine, Lemania collector, he has the Wakmann version of this, and this is identical, with the exception of slightly different hand design, and that the Wakmann watch co has been removed from both the case back and the movement itself. Besides that, absolutely identical watch. So Jardur, I don't know why they did it, because obviously anyone looking at it could see that something has been removed, but fair enough. Jardur is known for supplying chronographs mainly, or for aviation industry, and even though it's not a chronograph, a 24-hour dial would make perfect sense for a intercontinental pilot of the time, and also the first members of the American space crew used a 24-hour dial watch. I believe it was a JL Culture with a 24-hour dial. Please correct me in the comments. And yeah, I did a video earlier about the Breitling Navitimer with a 24-hour dial as well. Yeah, so obviously in terms of aviation, 24-hour dial is very useful, or if you're above the Arctic Circle. Anyway, I'm going to take this movement apart, and then we're going to put it back together in real time. I'm going to do it in time lapse so we can save a bit of time on that. And yeah, hope you enjoy it. Here's just a little bit of before footage of the dial before I spray the varnish on it, and the process of spraying the varnish on it. So movement has been cleaned, and we have fitted the shock jewels back into the balance cock. The state of this movement was, well, it's seen its fair share of watchmakers, and it has seen its fair share of moisture. So there's been a lot of kind of surface corrosion on the plates, which I have manually removed with pegwood. I haven't filmed it because it's incredibly boring. But what it entails is, for example, if you look at this bridge here, you take a piece of pegwood and you would scrape away any corrosion that may, well, oxidization that may occur on it. I think I've saved a little spot here to demonstrate. So you basically scrape this off until all the loose matter comes up off the top, and you're just kind of left with a scar from where that was. No, I'm not going to replate this plating on the movement here and refinish it. It would just take way too long, and you're actually taking away the history of the watch as well. This is a close to 70-year-old watch, and I think it should have its battle scars. You may say that's a cheap excuse not to do it, but I think overall it's fair to have a bit of patina on something like this. Another thing I've done, which I did off camera, I might have added the photo, is I've made a new bushing, which I have fitted into the upper barrel bridge because of the, you see somebody's punched this mark here, somebody's punched this barrel hole before to kind of squeeze in it, and then they probably broached it, which can work once, but that was already worn out again. So what I've done now is done the proper thing of replacing the bushing in its entirety. So I've made a new bush, I didn't have anything that fitted, and opened the hole, broached it open, and press fit the new bushing in place. And just make sure you align it exactly over the lower hole for the barrel arbor, otherwise you will have a problem of it not aligning up. So lower hole is pretty good. It's not as worn as the top one. The top one gets all the wear off you actually winding the movement. So it wasn't to the point where the movement was stopping, but it was pretty close. And what happens is that your barrel will start tilting, and then it will touch your center wheel. In this case, your second wheel. So this will wear, and it will come up here and tilt. So yeah, I'm very happy that's sorted. Anyway, enough blabbering along. It's time to put this movement back together. So I will actually start by, this is the scratch, not a fiber. Let's see. I've come back in the morning. I took this apart last night, so I'm kind of getting myself to grips of putting everything back together. We can start by putting a drop of oil in the lower barrel hole, barrel arbor hole, and for the center wheel, aka the second wheel in this case, there, another thing I've done is I have manually removed all the rust and refinished some of the details. I also let this soak in a solution to convert the rust, so that it's not rusty anymore. There's quite a bit of rust on the setting and winding mechanism. That is now been removed and neutralized, so that's good to go back. Anyway, let's have a look. This construction has a overlaying third wheel that drives your that drives your sweep second pinion. Okay, I'll do this in the right order. Center wheel, barrel. I think actually we can pop the barrel bridge in first. So I am kind of doing this. It's a long time since I've done one of these movements, but it's pretty straightforward. So I like with the barrel and center wheel and KA second wheel to oil the sides of the areas that will touch to their respective jewels or bushings, like so. You can see there's no wiggle in this barrel arbor anymore, but it moves freely, so that's very good. That's where we want it to be. Okay, let's secure that. You can see the screws are a bit knackered as well. They've had somebody has used the wrong screwdriver. Not going to lie, I prefer a movement which is perfect, but at the same time, you know, it has its charm that this watch has been used and it has had a few services. What I like to do now is to think that I'm kind of mechanically making sure everything is the way it should be. Whereas, oh, screw's a little high. Let's have a look. Mechanically making sure everything is tip-top, yet even though aesthetically it's got patina on it. There we go. So this one's a bit interesting in its construction, that it has this overlaying wheel. So that means this comes in here. So that's the third wheel. We have the fourth wheel, and we're going to have the escape wheel. In there. And you can see the notch where this comes in. It's going to slide in underneath here and go in on like this. So I'm going to do this under the microscope to make sure that I don't bugger any of the pivots. Well, even under the microscope you can do mistakes, and I've done it now. I've broken off the top pivot on the escape wheel. And I know some people can turn a piece, a hole in it, and then they push it on top here with a new pivot, but you know what, that is going to take me ages if I'm even capable. I'm sure I could do it, but probably take me about a week. So because it's not what I do every day. If I did every day I'd probably be better at it, but it's something when I'm really pressed up against the wall that I will do that, especially when I should be able to find a donor part. So I'm going to go and look in my parts bin and see what I can find. So good for me is that I have a donor movement. So I'm going to take the escape wheel from this and pop it in my GMT movement. So another thing we're going to look at, just for fun, we can have it now, because we've got it side by side, we can have a look at the teeth on the hour wheel. And we can find two differences. Well, the obvious difference is that the teeth are much finer on this, will be twice the amount, and number two is the pinion that drives it is on the post, on the standard movement, where this goes into a hole on the base plate. So that is the main difference. So if with a standard caliber 3060 and caliber 3060 GMT, they haven't even designated the movement a different name. So there you go. Anyway, I'm going to get the escape wheel out of this and we can continue with the put together of this watch. Okay, we now have a new escape wheel ready to go in the movement. Let's put this on. That's a guard disc for the crown wheel, which is the intermediate winding wheel, basically going to the ratchet wheel. So I'm going to put a bit of oil on the surface there. That will prevent rust and make it move smoother. You might as well put a droplet of oil on the side as well, just touching surfaces. There we go. And I'm also going to put a droplet of oil on the top here, where it will engage, might engage with the screw. It's left hand thread. There we go. That's in place, and we might as well put the ratchet wheel in now while we're at it. Having a bit of problems with the light and focus today, but I hope you can bear with me. Screw. There we go. Alright, well I'm going to put this gear train back in and see if I can get the bridge on, and we'll take it from there. Hopefully I don't break any more pivots. Okay, now the new escape wheel is in place and we have secured it with one screw. I took that off camera just because I didn't want to do the same mistake as last time. Sometimes it can be very sensitive, whereas you have everything lined up and a little bump will cause the pivot to come out of position, and as you tighten the bridge screws like this and the pivot isn't in place, snap. It's that simple. When I'm mucking around with the camera like this, it's even easier to do. So you can see the discolorations of the plates. So these two bridges have matching and these two are matching, and this is the same base plate, but the colors are affected by how there's been more corrosion on this side. But, yeah, it's going to be a little bit multicolored, that's fine. Next we're going to pop the sweep second pinion into the center here. We've got this little tension spring that looks to be pretty good. Quite reminiscent of a chronograph Big Brothers. Oops. And yeah, I'm just going to put a little droplet of light droplet of 9010 oil here. That gets in. Oops. Like so. And we can put the bridge on top. I'll also oil the upper pivots because they might be a bit more tricky to get to later on. So next, the overlaying bridge comes here. Again, I'm going to line up the, well actually the pivots are lined up, that's fine. I can see that with my eyes. And we've got the overlaying bridge screw. Secured. Nice. So with a quick test, see that the gear train is moving. Freely. That's good. So I'm going to pop this around, and we're going to start putting the winding and setting mechanism back in place. So before I do that, I'm going to quickly oil these pivots here, because this one will be out of reach once I put the intermediate hour wheel in. There we go, it's oiled. I'm going to start by putting the cannon pinion in place. A little drop of oil on each side there. So the cannon pinion is basically a clutch that connects to the second wheel. So the second wheel rotates 360 in 1 hour, and that's what you attach your minute hand onto this. Then you have your intermediate hour wheel comes up here, and your hour wheel. So in this case we have a 24-hour wheel, so basically the difference is that it has a double gearing ratio compared to a normal watch. So it's a little bit more difficult to manufacture because you'll have smaller and finer teeth. So this is the winding pinion, and the winding pinion has these engaging teeth here that will engage with the sliding pinion, and the idea is it's also round inside. So the idea is that this moves freely on the on top of the stem, but this has a square cut on the inside, so that will engage on the square here and spin around. So that's how you can wind. And this is a gauge down, engaging with the winding pinion. And then when that's in setting position, it does not engage with this, and this will just, the stem will move freely inside the hole here. So nifty construction. Anyway, I'm going to grease this up. Every moving or every sliding part can benefit with a bit of lubrication. See that will wind. And if you go in setting position, it will set. Now I'm going to secure the stem by tightening the going to fit the setting lever. So you pop the setting lever screw in the hole here, sorry for the blurry picture, and then you tighten it. There we go. See that lever is now engaging, and that setting lever will engage the yoke. And that yoke will determine if it's going to set the time or wind. I'm going to put a bit of grease on the part of the setting lever that will engage with the yoke. Just a bit of grease where the yoke goes on. Some like so, and that will engage up like that. Good. And to keep it in winding position, to engage properly, you have this spring. Wind, and you lift it up. We'll go into the setting position. I'm not going to do that now because I want to fit the setting lever spring first. And before I fit the setting lever spring, I'm going to fit the intermediate hour wheel and the intermediate setting wheel. Bit of lubrication here, that's a bit heavy. There we go. Just throw them out. Such. There we go. And now a bit of grease here as well for the actual engaging part. So now you can see the gear train, of course, it's moving because there is no pallet fork in place stopping it from moving, but when the pallet's in place you will see that clutch spinning around. But we can wind it. It gets the movement going. Anyway, okay, we're going to pop this around, fit the pallet fork, oil the pallet, and we're going to pop the balance in and see if she will run. Oops, there we go. Okay, moment of truth. I have fitted the pallet under the pallet bridge or the pallet fork under the pallet bridge, and I'm going to see if this movement will take to life. I'm expecting a beat error, and we'll see what the amplitude is like. It'd be nice to see if it will run in the first place. I'm pretty sure it will. So, this is a breakaway overcoil. That's what that is. That means that one coil is bent in such a way that it comes over the rest of the hairspring, and supposed to compensate for positional variation. Not too sure if it does, considering the effectiveness of straight hairsprings as well. Okay, the good thing is watch is ticking, which is a great start. So now I'm going to put on the time grapher and see where we're at. So lift angle is actually 42 degrees on this movement. 1800 beats, 800 beat movement. Amplitude 296, very good. Beat area 0.2, very good. Timing at the moment, very poor. So we're going to see if we can adjust this. Okay, it's closer to where we want to be. Let's let that settle a bit. It's probably about +8, I reckon. +13, okay. Okay, well, we're at +13 seconds a day. Let's slow that a tiny bit down. Barely touched that. Okay, about -3 now. Accidentally stopped it. Let's do that again. Start, stop, so we can start again. There we go. See where we're at. Still a little slow. I'll get a little settle. Amplitude is climbing. It's 10 seconds. There you go, pretty straight. Plus, let's start this again, just to keep track of things. +5 seconds, 299 amplitude, 0.5 beta. I usually my pain spot is 0.4 beta area, 0.5 on a 42-degree lift angle. It's not bad. I can live with that. +9. Good, that's where I want to be. Let's do dial up position. See what it does. That's good. It's fairly straight compared to where it was. +7 from +8. Very good. Happy with that. Amplitude. About the same. Very nice, not bad for this old beaten up movement. This is what I care about in the end, and that is having good amplitude and a fairly accurate watch. So happy. Just for the heck of it, dial to the left position. So movement on its side, amplitude will drop, but it's keeping remarkably good time. Look at that. Sometimes these swing up and down and all over the place depending on the condition of the balance, and this is obviously very good. Let's do crown down position, see what it does. So different beat area, different variation, but this is not looking bad at all. I'm pretty sure this would have been okay from the factory back in the day. This is very good. There's a bit of positional variation, -4 on the side, crown down for an old beaten up movement like this is amazing. So very happy with that. So upwards and onwards, and let's put the dial on and finish it off. Okay, as I'm very happy with the amplitude and performance of this watch, the next thing to do is flap this around. And I'm going to oil the surface where the hour wheel goes. Who knows, it might be a long time until somebody services this again, depending on circumstance and usage, etc. And if a bit of moisture comes in and that seizes on there, you'll have a problem. I've seen that before. It goes on like so. We have good old dial washer comes on here, and yeah, the dial itself. Good old Jardur. I'm going to fit the dial screws. First you have to drop them, of course, a couple of times in front of the camera, just to show that you're a pro. There we go. I do believe there's a video of me crawling around on the floor as well somewhere on the internet, looking for parts. It's the only religion in the workshop. It's the great, the gods of the floor. You have to go there and pray once a week in the form of intently looking for your lost parts. You also have parts gnomes that will come out and take your part and hide it somewhere. There we go, dial secured. Next, it's time to fit the hands. So these hands had somebody had re-lumed them, bright green luminous compound, which really looked pretty pants on this dial. So I took the liberty of kind of matching the luminous compound up to this dial again. There we go. Our hand. There we go. Movement in case. I've fitted the pendant tube, fitted the crystal. Now we can put the crown back in. Tighten the setting lever. It's always a good idea to pull the setting lever in and out once. Sometimes I find needs an extra tight. This one didn't, but on some movements that can be very beneficial. Right, yeah, there you have it. Movements back in the case. I'm going to find a case back gasket for the case back. So this is reference 286, very unusual case reference for Lemania. I'm going to show you hopefully a photo of the same watch as the Wakmann. I think you can make out the A and N at the end of the scribbling out there, and I don't know if you can do it, but it's the same on the bridge itself. So definitely, as you'll see the photo of the other Wakmann, it's pretty much identically the same watch. Anyway, what do I think of the movement? I think these are great little movements, on par with Omega, if anything. I think it's the same company, or owned by they were in the same organization at the time. But I would say, yeah, it's a manual wind. If you like the CH27, aka the Omega 321, you definitely like a Lemania movement like this. It's very similar in terms of balance, the finish on the plates and the wheels and everything. Very, very reminiscent of a 321 in terms of quality. Design and layout, very different of course, but that's the best thing I can compare it with. So I'm going to put the case back gasket on it, get the case back onto the watch, and we'll have a look at it with a new strap. Here you can see the case reference 286, but with the Lemania dial, and this is the standard Lemania 12-hour dial. A very good friend of mine, Agent X1, aka the Lemania expert, also has one of these, of course, but he has the Wakmann version. Here you can see the Wakmann dial, and you have an identical dial just with Wakmann. The movement is also marked Wakmann, so is the case back. So the reference number in this Wakmann indicates this watch was made in 1959, according to Agent X1. The reference number in my movement is a bit earlier and was made in 1954. The catalogue with the case reference is from 1956. So it's possible this case reference came a couple of years earlier, we're not quite sure, but definitely mid-1950s is when this watch came out and was sold to around 1960. At least that's what we reckon. There we have it, the watch put back together. You can get a good indication of the beveled lines on the case. Very difficult to capture. You can see it in person much more, but there you go. It's kind of it's got a nice broad side going down here, and then the next line swooping around here, and you got the top over here. Probably would have been easier to see if it was polished, but it has kind of like a nice, bend going down. It's a very elaborate case design, even though it doesn't look like it in the first impression. And yeah, I had this polished because it was so beaten up to start with, and it just looks fantastic. And I also think the dial came out really good. You can see the unevenness on the varnish, but that is basically a result of the old varnish lifting up, and if I was to lift up the old varnish, all this white printing would have disappeared, and I would have been left with only the luminous compound markers around and no name on the dial whatsoever. That's just a fibre on the outside, good. What I think this is a great looking watch. I'm so happy how this turned out compared to how it looked before. I've put this strap on with this finish because it kind of goes a bit with the dial, I think. Yeah, you can see my reflection, hello, in the dial. Pop out of the way. Again, difficult to capture on photo, maybe better on film, but I'm also going to take this watch on my wrist and give you a wrist shot out in daylight. I like the red second hand, and yeah, I think the luminous compound in the hand matches the dial a lot better than bright green. Please leave your comments, say what you think. It's been a bit of a back and forwards video this, I know, I'm trying to be better, but I'm not a filmmaker, I'm a watch repairer for trade, but I like showing off some of these interesting pieces and their movements to you, and I hope you enjoy watching it. Until next time, have a good one.